I think you should never be scared. Even if China is stronger, China will give you only good.
We fail to appreciate history. We fail to think. And it's cost us fiercely in that today the United States is in deep decline.
The problem with GM is not caused by Toyota or Hyundai Kia. The problem with General Motors is being caused by what? General Motors and the UAW.
We're not very competitive. We've been spending too much money on making ultimately worthless stuff.
You are making weapons, you are making tanks to kill people, okay? China is actually making cups, kettles.
所以这是最近这10几年以来形成新的经济危机的根本原因。这和过去的那个经济危机完全不一样。
It sits precariously at 50 kilometers from the demilitarized zone, separating the two sides, in range of the North's artillery. Threat of Seoul's all-out nuclear North shifts the balance of power in Asia. Why doesn't China use its growing strength to help US-backed efforts to disarm North Korea?
One of the odd things about the post-war world is the Chinese are absolutely delighted to have Korea divided in two. They used to try and maintain this even back in the Tang Dynasty. Korea was often structurally divided into different kingdoms with different support from the Chinese because it led to structural weakness, inability to stand up to the Chinese domination. Their policy is to prevent war and prevent the world hegemon has historically always been the world's most powerful economic nation. The United States hasn't been the most powerful economic nation for a long time now.
那他需要出去扔炸弹，需要动刀子，需要开枪的时候用谁呀？
And it doesn't look like it's going to come back.
所以实际上，你看这些年来北朝鲜扮演的就是这样一个角色。
Initially, let's say, go back to the January and February 2003, what the Bush administration wanted
The
was...
decline of the United States as the world hegemon is a necessary condition in order for China to take over that role.
Sanctions in North Korea. China didn't want it.
If you're going to work on a Korean nuclear issue,
but does hegemon necessarily mean empire?
Context and the hegemon simply refers to an overarching power. But if Korea were empire, then I think it's a little bit like pornography. You know, when you see that's getting to be a little too big. As for China unleashes its tremendous talents, as well as the power of its size and productivity.
If Korea is a traditional tributary state that China manages through division,
I don't think China quite
then how will it deal with Korea's bigger and wealthier historically when countries have become hegemons whose rivalries eventually become empires have spanned centuries? Rome. The answer depends not only on the intentions of the Chinese government, but also on the attitudes of the Chinese people. Like Korea, Japan has traditionally been a part of the Chinese cultural area. But it has also been fiercely rebellious. After Japan became the first Asian nation to industrialize, it used its newfound strength to create a modern empire and let's not forget subjugate its Asian neighbors. Committing hate crime. Beyond being a window on Chinese nationalism, the Nagano torch relay provided a glimpse into the situation of some of China's various ethnic minorities, and begged the question, is China really the unified multi-ethnic nation that it portrays?
The Americans don't realize we have probably a good 1,000 overseas military bases.
China doesn't yet have this military capability. But what happens when it becomes the world's #1 economy? Will hegemony lead it to become the world's next empire? Or does it provide a much-needed balance to American militarism?
Harmonious. Do not confuse it.
Should we be afraid?
Yeah. From his period, 2,000 years ago, he teaches us, be friendly. Seeing is believing. So come to no matter where you come from, all
seeing is believing. So let's
We are
go.
one family.
But not only to China.
We are friends.
Let's go to the countries that the Olympics provided an opportunity to see if the harmonious society was a reality. Is China being a friendly neighbor? Propaganda? Or is it sowing the seeds? We headed to Xinjiang, meaning new territory, to watch the Olympic torch relay in Kashgar. China already uses its neighbors to play big country politics. Busan, South Korea. One of the world's major shipping Kashgar city, and evidence preparations of the successful industrialization of South Korea, whose living standards now rival those of the United States for the Olympics. The authorities were considering a large group of minority children in East Asia, mostly Uyghurs, and it hopes that come out and show support for the growing nuclear threat posed by neighboring North Korea. Like much U.S. policy, it misunderstands Chinese interests. The event itself, however, was sealed off from the public. The nation's capital has a little more than a quarter of the country's population of 48 million. It sits precariously at 50 kilometers from the demilitarized zone, separating the two sides, in range of the North's artillery. Threat of Seoul's all-out destruction in the event of further conflict has helped maintain this status quo. We were struck by just how different Xinjiang was from eastern China. And we wanted to know more. Just how serious specifically is North Korea's development of nuclear weapons? Well, to begin with, they're Central Asians of Turkic origin, and they're Muslim. It wasn't until we caught up with exiled Uyghur spokeswoman Rabia Kadir at the Uyghur American Association in Washington, D.C. that we felt like we got the other side of the story.
The first condition is the possession of nuclear warhead.
Ziminimin ismi Şarkı Türkistan. Menin ziminim 1949 yılı Xitay hükümeti tarafından, Xitay diktatörlüğü tarafından bezilgan. Xitay hükümeti biz sizlarni azatlık çıkardı, Mongolardan azatlık çıkardı, militaristlardan azatlık çıkardı. Sizlarni en baxtli qilamiz, biz sizlarga yordam qilamiz. Sizlar shundoq san'atkor, pokiz, go'zal millatga sizlar shundoq qo'shaq qilamiz. Shunchalik va'dalarni bergan. Lekin u bergan siyosatini faqat qog'oz yuzida qilib, Xitoy butunlay o'zgacha shu avtonom rayon degan ism bilan qolib qoldik va bergan siyosatlarni yolg'on qilib, aksinchasiga ijro qildik. 11-sentabr vaqasidan keyin Uyg'ur xalqini endi bostiradigan fursat, yo'qotadigan fursat keldi deb qaradik. Shu Amerika bilan, Amerika-Iroq urushidan foydalanib, Amerika bilan Birlashgan Davlatlar Tashkilotiga Sharq Turkiston Islom partiyasi degan bir narsani kirgizish uchun
I've never felt that there was a threat from North Korea. I've never thought for a minute there was a single North Korean that was even slightly suicidal.
U maqsadini amalga oshirdi.
Suicidal or not, a nuclear North shifts the balance of power in Asia. Why doesn't China use its growing strength to help U.S.-backed efforts to disarm North Korea?
One of the odd things about the post-war world is the Chinese are absolutely delighted to have Korea divided into two. They used to try and maintain this even back in the Tang Dynasty. Korea was often structurally divided into different kingdoms with different support from the Chinese, because it led to structural weakness, inability to stand up to a Chinese domination.
There are two nations which are fighting in the world.
Their policy
one is America,
is to
one is China.
war
so America is using brutal way, Korea, which is war, and there is a lot of losses. And China is using a peaceful way, a civilized way, where there is no loss.
需要开枪的时候用手，需要一个麻袋。所以实际上你看这些年来北朝鲜
in other countries.
Initially, when
it is not like America.
You go back to the January and February 2003.
Who interfere
what the Bush
in the entire world
wanted was has China in such a way that China image posed sanctions in North Korea. China didn't want it.
If you're going to work on Korean nuclear issues, you have to understand the Chinese context and the fact that South Korea is rich is fine, but if Korea were unified and this rich, it would be the size of former West Germany. That's getting to be a little too big for Chinese comfort.
If Korea is a traditional tributary state that the United States is one of the largest donors, then how will it deal with Korea's bigger and wealthier neighbor? Most of this money is spent on American-made arms whose rival weapon systems have spanned centuries. The Pakistani military justifies such spending. The answer depends not only on the intentions to defend against the imagined threat, but also on the attitudes of the Chinese people. American aid, therefore, Japan has traditionally been a part of the Chinese cultural area. But it has also been fiercely rebellious. After Japan became the first Asian nation to industrialize, it used its newfound strength to create a modern empire and subjugate its Asian neighbors. Fortunately for the Pakistanis, there are other nations that have undertaken development projects that have contributed greatly to the infrastructure and quality of life in Pakistan, committing heinous war crimes and killing approximately 30 million Chinese throughout Asia.
Problem in the past, China came and it solved the problem.
Understandably, there exists a strong current of anti-Japanese sentiment is the highest international roadway in the world. It runs over 800 miles. Although Japan was defeated in World War II in western China, it went on to become the world's second largest economy. The KKH is a joint venture between China and Pakistan of surpassing that provides a vital link between the two countries. Afghanistan's untapped INAC copper